Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. You're not even worth the seat you're sitting on. The laughter that followed wasn't loud, it was sharp, quiet, venomous, the kind of laughter that slips like needles into your skin, finding every old scar and stabbing it just right. Anaya stared at the untouched cappuccino in front of her, her fingers pale and bony, curled tightly around the porcelain cup. Her thumb trembled slightly. Only slightly. You didn't change at all, Liana said, her lip gloss sparkling like a weapon. Same dull eyes, same cheap coat. I swear it's like watching a documentary on poverty. Another giggle from the side, this one from Marielle, the one who used to wear ballet flats with holes in them, but now clicked her way across life in stilettos. Ronnie smirked, swirling his glass of overpriced wine. What was that nickname we gave you? Oh yeah, Charcoal Girl, because you looked like you lived in soot. Laughter again. Anaya said nothing. She hadn't said anything since she'd walked in 20 minutes ago. She'd just smiled, nodded politely, and taken her seat at the far end of the marble table. Maybe it was a mistake to come. Maybe everything was. The restaurant was called La Teresa, a rooftop bistro designed for the rich and restless, glowing lanterns, imported plants, and a wine list that had its own hardcover binder. The invitation had said 10-year high school reunion, private table for old friends. Friends, that word used to mean something. Now it just echoed. She didn't belong here. Not among the shining watches, fake lashes, and cruelty-dressed. In silk, but she had come anyway. What even happened to you anyway? Liana leaned forward, perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. Last I heard, you dropped out of uni, disappeared off social media. No wedding pictures, no career moves, no baby bump. It's like you evaporated. Anaya lifted her eyes. Just for a second. I lived, she said softly. Liana blinked. Excuse me? Anaya smiled faintly. That's what I did. I lived. Before anyone could process that. The restaurant door opened, and the air changed. He walked in like a blade of thunder tall, clean-shaven, charcoal suit that looked custom-made in a country that didn't advertise prices. His shoes barely made a sound. His watch face reflected the chandelier above like a cold sun. He walked straight to Anaya, bent slightly, kissed her gently on the cheek, then turned to the table with a stillness so controlled it was louder than any shout. Sorry I'm late, love, he said to her. The jet got delayed over Zurich. A fork clattered. Liana blinked rapidly, her lips parted like she'd just missed a step and was falling. Ronnie looked like someone had slapped him with a credit card statement. The others, 3 more classmates. Anaya barely remembered. Just stared, unsure if they should stand, smile, or apologize. I'm sorry, who are you? Liana finally managed. The man extended a hand, not to shake, but to silence. Adil Raza, he said, Anaya's husband. Then, like flipping a switch, his voice turned to ice. Is there a reason you're all treating my wife like she's a charity case? Silence. Even the waiter paused mid-step. She came here in good faith, Adil continued. To reconnect, to be polite, and this is what you do. His eyes swept over each of them like a storm scanning for lightning rods. Disgusting. Flashback. A girl with shadows in her eyes at 17. Anaya wasn't shy. She was silent. There's a difference. Shy people want to speak but are afraid. Silent people have learned not to bother. Her clothes were always dark, navy, charcoal, steel grey. Her notebooks weren't filled with class notes, but drawings. Eyes, doors, broken windows, flowers without roots. People whispered that she was disturbed. Some said she saw ghosts. Others said her parents were into black magic. But none of them knew that every night she wrapped her younger brother in a blanket and waited by the door, just in case their father came home drunk again. They didn't know she once locked herself in the bathroom with a kitchen knife, not to end anything, but to survive the night behind 2 locks. They didn't know that school was the safest place she had, even with the bullies. Especially with the bullies, because bullies were predictable. Present day, Cafe Chaos. Liana tried to recover. So you married rich, good for you. Doesn't erase the weird little mouse you were. Anaya met her eyes now. I wasn't weird, she said gently. I was hurting, there's a difference. Oh, please, spare us the sob story. But Adil stepped in. You're the CEO of a failing beauty app, right? He asked Liana flatly. She stiffened. How do you... Your seed funding got pulled last week. Your lead developer filed harassment claims. You're 2 months from insolvency. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I buy companies like yours and shut them down. For sport. Liana's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for breath. I married her, Adil added, looking at Anaya with quiet pride. Not because she's beautiful, though she is, or because she's brilliant, which she is, but because she never pretended to be better than anyone. He turned to the rest of them. And look at you all, 10 years later, and still stuck in a high school drama. Earlier that morning, Anaya had stood in front of the mirror for 40 minutes. She tried on 3 coats, 2 lipsticks, and still nothing looked right. I could go with you, Adil had offered gently. She shook her head. I need to face them alone. He didn't argue, just walked over, placed a silver necklace around her neck, a simple pendant shaped like a window. What's this? She whispered. Because you don't need doors anymore, he said softly. Only openings. She didn't cry, but her voice broke just a little. Thank you. He kissed her forehead. Back to the cafe Anaya stood now. Calm, straight-backed. No one knew what I went through, she said. Not the bruises, not the silence, not the nights I slept in a janitor's closet at school just to feel safe. She paused, looked at each of them. You mocked me, because it was easier than asking why. The group was frozen, guilt tangled with pride and shame. Adil reached for her hand. She didn't take it, not out of anger, but strength, because she didn't need it to stand anymore. Flashback. The first time they met, she was working part-time at a used bookstore, the kind with cracked spines and the smell of ink trapped in dust. Adil had wandered in during a rainstorm, soaked, looking for shelter. He didn't speak much, neither did she. He came back 3 times that week. On the 4th visit, he left a note on her desk. Silence is a language. I speak it too. That's when she smiled for the first time in 3 years, back to present Anaya, and Adil walked out of the cafe. The air outside was cold, but clean. You okay? He asked. No, she said truthfully, but I'm better than I was. They reached the valet. A sleek black SUV pulled up. Anaya's phone buzzed. Unknown number, 1 message. You shouldn't have come back. Some scars don't heal. Her fingers went cold. She showed Adil the screen. He froze. That number, he said quietly. It was supposed to be dead. She looked up at him, alarm flaring in her eyes. You said he was in jail, I said. He disappeared, Adil corrected. There's a difference. The shadow of the past Anaya's fingers trembled as she locked her phone screen. The message from the unknown number burned in her mind like an ember threatening to ignite long dormant fears. You shouldn't have come back. Some scars don't heal. Who had sent that? What did it mean? Adil's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Anaya, we need to figure out who this is, now. But she shook her head. No, not yet. I'm not ready. The SUV's engine purred softly. The driver opened the door, and they slipped inside. The city lights blurred past the tinted windows, a chaotic mosaic of motion and noise that felt miles away from the quiet storm growing inside her. Back at home, a fortress against the world, their penthouse apartment was a world apart from the small, cramped spaces Anaya once called home. Marble floors, walls of glass overlooking the city, and minimalist decor designed to calm rather than impress. Adil poured 2 glasses of wine as Anaya sank into the plush sofa. "Talk to me," he said, sitting beside her. She took a breath and began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wasn't. Just bullied in school. The scars, they come from deeper places." She told him about her childhood. The nights spent hiding from her father's rage, the moments she thought she wouldn't survive, and the silence she chose as armor. Adil listened, never interrupting, holding her gaze with steady warmth. When she finished, he took her hand. "You survived all that," he said, "and you're still here. That strength most people will never understand." Tears spilled over, but this time they were tears of relief. The investigation begins. The next day, Adil called in a favor. His trusted friend, Zara, was a cybersecurity expert who had helped him fend off corporate espionage and personal threats. Within hours, Zara traced the phone number that sent the message. "It's burner tech," she said, shaking her head. "Untraceable by design," but she didn't stop there. "There's a digital footprint, though, a pattern." She showed them a map dotted with other numbers and IP addresses, all tied to one name, she whispered. Farhan Qureshi. Farhan Qureshi, a name. From the abyss, Anaya's heart stopped. Farhan was her father, the man who haunted her nightmares, the man who had vanished 10 years ago after a violent episode that left the family broken and scattered. Police reports said he fled after assault. Charges, but no one knew where. Adil's eyes darkened. This isn't just a message, it's a warning. Secrets buried. Deep Anaya refused to run. She was done hiding. "We have to face this," she told Adil. Together, they began to dig into the past, piecing together fragments of a life she'd tried to forget. Old court documents, social worker reports, and school records painted a picture of pain and neglect. But there were also clues that someone had tried to protect her. Anonymous letters, unmarked phone calls, and a strange photo she found hidden in her mother's belongings. It showed a man she didn't recognize, standing beside Farhan, an unexpected ally. The man in the photo was named Irfan Malik, a local journalist who had investigated domestic abuse cases. They found him living quietly in a nearby town. When they reached out, Irfan was cautious but agreed to meet. Over coffee, he shared what he knew. Farhan wasn't just violent, Irfan said gravely. He was part of something much darker. There were threats, dangerous people. Anaya's breath caught. The dark web and old enemies. Irfan explained how Farhan had been involved with a criminal network trafficking in stolen identities and money laundering. When Farhan tried to leave, the network threatened his life. He disappeared. But his enemies never forgot. Anaya realized the message wasn't just personal, it was a signal from that world. "They want you scared," Irfan said. "But you can't let them win." Tension builds as days passed. Strange things began to happen. Unmarked cars followed her. Her email was hacked, and shadows moved just outside the windows at night. Anaya's calm started to crack. Adil stayed by her side, determined to protect her. "We'll get through this," he promised. "Together." A sinister phone call one evening. Anaya's phone rang. No caller ID. She hesitated but answered. A distorted voice whispered, "You should have stayed silent. Now it's too late." The line went dead. Fear gripped her, but beneath it was a flicker of something else. Defiance. The plan. Adil and Anaya knew they had to act. They couldn't wait for danger to find them. With Zara's help, they began tracking the digital shadows. More aggressively, the hunt was on. Cliffhanger late one night, Anaya received another message. "We're closer than you think. Stop digging, or else." As she stared at the screen, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo of her, taken only minutes ago, standing in her own living room. The photo that shattered. Safety. Anaya stared at her phone, the photo still glowing on the screen. It was unmistakably her, caught unaware in the soft light of their living room, the exact place she had just been sitting with Adil moments ago. Her breath hitched. "How did they get this?" she whispered, Adil's jaw clenched. "They're inside our circle, not just outside, inside." The notion twisted coldly through her veins, locked down. That night, the penthouse felt less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. Every sound, the hum of the air conditioner, the distant traffic, felt amplified. Anaya couldn't sleep. Adil sat beside her on the edge of the bed. "We're going to upgrade security," he said. "Cameras, guards, encrypted communications, nothing gets through." But Anaya shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "We can't live like prisoners." Her eyes held something fierce. "We have to fight back." A hidden past revealed. The next morning, Anaya pulled out an old leather-bound journal she'd kept since her teens. She rarely read it, memories too raw. But now, it felt necessary. Flipping through the pages, she found entries about her father's. Increasing violence, coded warnings about people watching her family, and scribbled notes about someone named Raza who had helped her escape once. Her heart pounded. Could it be the same Adil? She never asked. Adele's past surfaces. Adil noticed the journal, but didn't pry. Instead, he shared pieces of his own story. He was born into a family scarred by betrayal and loss. His rise to success wasn't just luck. It was survival. People, like us, he said quietly, don't get to have perfect lives. But with Anaya, it was different. With you, I want more. New clues in the dark. Zara called late afternoon with an urgent update. She'd traced a recent digital breach back to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. "It's a front," she said, "for something bigger." Adil's eyes darkened. "This is where we find answers." The warehouse that night, Anaya and Adil, accompanied by Zara and 2 trusted security men, drove to the warehouse. The building was hulking and silent, shadows pooling like ink in every corner. Inside, rows of computers hummed faintly, a makeshift command center for criminals. Documents, hard drives, and phones littered the tables. Zara connected her laptop, eyes scanning rapidly. "They're tracking everything, our calls, emails, even this conversation," she said grimly. The unexpected encounter. Suddenly, the warehouse doors creaked open. A tall figure stepped inside. Anaya froze. The man's face was harsh, lined with years of bitterness. Farhan Qureshi, her father, confronting the father. Farhan's eyes flicked over Anaya, surprise mixing with something darker. "Anaya," he said, voice rough, "you shouldn't be here." She swallowed hard. "Why send the messages? Why now?" His gaze hardened. "This isn't about you. It's about survival." He stepped forward. "You don't know what they've done to me." Adil's hand moved instinctively toward his pocket. Farhan held up a hand. "I'm not your enemy. Not yet." Revelations. Farhan explained that after disappearing, he'd been forced to work for the criminal network, trapped, desperate to protect his family from. Afar, the messages were warnings, not threats. "They wanted me dead," he said. "And if they found you, you'd be next." Anaya's mind reeled. All this time, her father had been fighting his own war, in the shadows, a risky alliance. The 4 of them realized they needed to work together. Farhan had information about the network's operations, but little power. Adil had resources and influence. Anaya had the heart to endure. Zara, the tech genius, to fight back. The plan to strike back. They decided to gather evidence, financial records, communication logs, names, anything to bring the network down. But it was dangerous. They had to be careful. Tension and trust wasn't easy. Anaya felt torn between fear and hope. Could she trust the father who abandoned her? Could she trust Adil, who hid so much? And what about the network, lurking, waiting? A sudden attack as they left the warehouse. Tires screeched. A black van blocked the road. Masked men jumped out, guns drawn. Anaya's heart thundered. Adil pushed her behind the car. "Run!" he shouted. Gunfire echoed. Narrow escape. Zara's quick thinking saved them. She hacked into a nearby streetlight, plunging the area into darkness. Using the confusion, the group dashed into an alley. They split up. Anaya clung to Adil's hand as they disappeared into the night. Aftermath safe but shaken, they regrouped at a secure location. "This is bigger than we thought," Adil said grimly. "We're not just fighting ghosts." Anaya's voice trembled but was resolute. "We'll finish this. Together." The calm before the storm. The safe house was a fortress of silence. Anaya sat by the window, the city lights flickering far below. But her mind was far from peace. She had come so far through fear, pain, and uncertainty, yet now everything hinged on the final move. Adil entered, carrying 2 steaming cups of tea. "We have what we need," he said quietly. Zara had compiled the evidence, irrefutable proof of the criminal network's operations and the key players involved. Facing the past, Anaya's thoughts drifted to her father, Farhan. Was forgiveness possible after years of silence and fear? Would the world understand his sacrifice? She stood and looked out the window. "I'm ready," she whispered. "The plan to end it all." The team crafted a plan. They would deliver the evidence to the authorities, but only after setting a trap to expose the network's leaders publicly. Farhan's insider knowledge was crucial. He agreed to lead a controlled meeting with the network's top members. While Adil and Zara coordinated surveillance and police backup, the night of reckoning. The meeting was set at an abandoned factory, a place dripping with shadows and memories. Farhan walked in first, face steeled with determination. Anaya and Adil watched remotely, their hearts pounding. The network's kingpins arrived, smug, confident they controlled everything. The trap. Sprang suddenly. The warehouse lights flickered on. Police officers, led by Adil's contacts, stormed in. Shouts filled the air. Masks ripped away. Arrests were made swiftly. The network's empire crumbled in hours. Of father's redemption, Farhan was taken aside, the weight of years evident in his eyes. Anaya approached him. "I never thought I'd see this day," she said softly. He looked at her, vulnerability breaking through. "I'm sorry for everything. For the pain I caused." Tears welled in Anaya's eyes. "I forgive you. But more than that, I'm proud of the man you fought to become." New beginnings. Weeks later, life began to settle. The scars remained, but they no longer defined her. Anaya and Adil's bond deepened, forged in fire and trust. Zara's tech firm gained recognition for exposing the network. Farhan entered a rehabilitation program, committed to rebuilding his life. The truth sets them. Free Anaya stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the city. The wind whispered promises of hope and healing. She smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. The story that had started with pain had become one of courage, forgiveness, and triumph. Epilogue. The legacy years. Later, Anaya opened a foundation to help victims of domestic abuse and human trafficking. She shared her story openly, inspiring others to stand strong. Her journey from a mocked girl to a powerful woman became a beacon, and in her heart, she knew, no matter what shadows lay ahead, she would never walk alone again. The end.